Okay, well, we'll kick off so that I'm not running over into lunch. If you're anything like me, then lunch is a very, very important part of the day. As you can see there, I'm Gavin Jacobite Rebel Ewan, and this talk is I'm the guy that your CSO warned you about. Quick look at the agenda for you there. I'm sure you can all read through it. I'm not going to bore you by reading off every individual item. I have deliberately kept it a bit cryptic so it doesn't give a lot away about the talk. I'm going to do something slightly different at the end. It was actually Jason Street that sort of suggested this yesterday. He's going to do it within his talk. In terms of questions and answers, I'll be brutally honest, hold my hands up, I'm not actually very good at hearing people even when it's over microphones and whatnot. So what to do is, if you have any questions for me, I'm going to be at the con for the next 3 days. So come and grab a chat with me. I know that that'll help some of the folk that maybe don't want to speak out in front of the whole con, but also it gives me more time to answer your question as well. Moving along, again, that's myself. You've got the important thing up there is my Twitter handle. I really, really like Twitter followers. You've got Facebook, LinkedIn and all that stuff on there. A little bit about me though, for those of you that don't know me. My education, primarily master's degree in psychology and economics. What I did with that degree is I went out and sold a lot of shit to a lot of different people, to be brutally honest. Then, as is par for the course, I told other people to sell lots of shit to different folks. Strangely enough, I decided it was time to get into InfoSec. I have no idea why. I must have drank too much and my brain just frazzled and thought, yeah, that seems like a good idea. When I got into InfoSec, I was pigeonholed into becoming the social engineering guy because, yeah, of the above. Oh, you've got psychology in your title, you must be a social engineering guy at the end of the day. One last thing I want to point out to you though, I am not the guy that your CSO warned you about. Bear that in mind. Quick disclaimer before we start, I'm a hacker. I'm a Scottish hacker, which means that I say sometimes on the slide, I mean definitely. I'm going to rant during the talk. I'm going to swear at you. In fact, I've already swore at you. If you don't like me swearing, well, fucking doors at the back of the room. I'm going to say controversial things. In fact, I might just have said one there. You might not agree with everything that follows within this talk, but yeah, I'll get your credentials off you during the conference and then I'll just pop it onto your Facebook wall or your Twitter feed or whatever. Yeah, that Gav guy, fucking brilliant. So, sit back and enjoy the ride with me. What I'm going to start with, this talk it's basically a story I want to take you through of a social engineering type hack that's went on, but I need to give you a bit of background to understand what's happening throughout the story time. So, what I want to have a look at first is the evolution of ethical hacking as a sort of a discipline. So, very good phrase there. To catch a thief, you've got to learn to think like a thief. Now, I'm going to credit that to Abertay's own Colin Dr. Hacker McLean. I'm sure somebody said it before him, but hey, it wasn't to do with hacking, so Colin's getting the credits for this. What does that actually mean, though? Well, what it means for you is we've got to get into the same mindset as the malicious hacking guys. We've got to stop thinking like defenders and start thinking like attackers. Also, we've got to learn to use exactly the same tools and methodologies as your bad guys in order to better understand them. We want to be the elite hacksaws just like they are. A couple of derisory terms for hackers, both in terms of your malicious ones and your ethical ones. You've got your noobs, lamers, whatever you want to call them, newbies. Yeah, at the end of the day, I doubt there's any of them in this room. It's a lot of money to pay to come to a con when you know absolutely bugger all about hacking. Moving up the way, and I'm sure there's not many folk like this in the room either, you've got your script kiddies, your skiddies, the ones that will just take pre-configured scripts, pre-configured tools, have no bloody idea whatsoever of how they work, but they'll point them at websites, they'll point them at software, yada, yada, yada. You've then got the one that's just slightly above that, which I've titled the semi-elites. They're the ones, they'll understand how the scripts work, they'll understand how the tools work, and they'll maybe be able to manipulate them slightly to do things. They think that they're really, really good at what they do, but really what they want to be is the elite hacksaws, the ones that, these guys, yeah, they're fucking ninjas at the end of the day. They're the ones that can get in and out without leaving a trace. If there isn't a tool for the job, they'll write one. In fact, chances are if there's a tool, they'll write their own tool anyway. So a very clear path there of what the malicious guy wants to do and what the ethical guy should follow as well. Question is, though, that'll be on some of your minds, well, what about social engineers? Before I carry on into that, though, I want to have a look at some constructive criticism of social engineering. We're doing some research for this talk, and, well, firstly doing a wee bit of job hunting, and people notice on my CV that I talk a lot about social engineering, and that's where my heart lies. So some of the sort of comments that have came out, like I say, very constructive. Well, yeah, social engineering isn't all that relevant. It's a bit niche, is one thing that was said on the job market. It's like, aye, okay, fuck you too. The next one, though, and this was just last week, this was said to me, oh, so you've wasted a lot of time researching social engineering, and then the recruiter continued to say, can you not do anything technical? I repeat, fuck you too. Con organisers aren't outside of this as well. This was from a con that's actually coming up in the future. I will not mention the name, but what they said to me in the rejection was, yep, social engineering's losing popularity, and the delegates, they just aren't interested in social engineering anymore. Again, it was along the lines of, it's not technical. And from a conference in the past, yeah, this is a highly technical conference, and you want to discuss social engineering? I mean, it was like I'd, I don't know, stripped off in front of the guy or something like that, the kind of reply. It was awful. Here's some facts for you about social engineering, though. Personally, I think it's the top threat out there, but if it isn't the top threat, it's certainly one of the top threats on there. And the problem is, it's growing. The way that I see it growing at the moment, and the way that a lot of research has been done on, is as the bad guys are getting better at social engineering, instead of moving up the way, I mean, all your social engineering textbooks and talks are all talking about big companies being attacked. So they're going into head offices, they're going into main offices, and attacking them. But what the bad guys are doing now, picture the scenario. If you make 15,000 on a 6-month attack against a very, very highly defended organisation, so there's a lot of risk of getting caught, and like I say, it takes you 6 months to make that 15 grand. How about if you have an attack that takes you a week, but it only makes you £1,000, but it's a piece of piss, there's no defence at all, or there's very, very little defence, and you can keep rattling these things out every week. I mean, assuming you do one every week there, over the 6 months, that's 26 grand that you've picked up, as opposed to 15, and your risk of getting caught, even though there's more companies, is far lower. One thing I want you to remember, just for the technical guys out there, amateurs, well, they hack computer systems. Us professionals, we hack people. That was actually Bruce Schneier that came up with that one, and I think it's a bloody good comment. Next thing is, I keep getting this levelled at me, there's no such thing as ethical social engineering. It's unethical, you can't do it, it's encouraging people to lie. Yeah, I say don't get me started on that, I'm already started on it, I'm sorry. It is just complete and utter bullshit at the end of the day. A wee bit of code for you though. If an ethical hacker has to equal a malicious hacker, wants to go down the same way, then what should an ethical social engineer do? Now, in my opinion, the industry is actually failing to answer this particular question quite badly. Because our social engineers, and we'll call them the white hats, the good guys, whatever you want to call them, we're spending far too much time having a look at the minutiae of human psychology, picking out, I mean, a lot of the social engineering talks that I've seen and went to are picking out a very, very niche bit of what was dropped to me yesterday by young Ryan in the audience, a pop psychology, and turning that into a social engineering talk and trying to use that to defend ourselves. Now, bear in mind, ethical hacking ethos, what are their guys doing? What are the bad guys doing? Do you think that they're looking at this minutiae stuff and going, yeah, that sounds absolutely great? Well, I'll leave you to answer that question after it, and this is where the real fun actually begins within this talk. Having a look at, though, the enemy. I mean, is Sigmund Freud our enemy at the end of the day? Is he the guy that we're looking to prevent hacking us? I would argue not. Carl Jung, same reason for it. And again, Bandler and Grinder, the two guys that came up with neuro-linguistic programming, are they our enemies? I would say no. So why are we spending so much time pouring a lot of study into it? And what I want to introduce you to is actually the real enemy for the purposes of this talk. And this is our Dino, Dean Logie. He's actually a friend of myself in Phoenix a few years ago. Sadly, Dino's passed on, but his family thought it would be a great idea for him to be vilified within this talk, believe it or not. If I die, I don't want to be a villain in any of your talks, by the way. I'd just like to get that out of the way now. So what I want to look at is the reality of what Dino is versus what you're probably expecting of a malicious hacker or social engineer. And the expectation would be, well, you're going to think he's going to be a skilled computer user. You're going to think that he knows his way around systems. He's probably been a geek that's sat in his bedroom all his life, has no friends. Yeah, just works his way through stuff like that. Maybe an ex-system administrator, and he's got pissed off with the whole system and decided that he just wants to hack it. Or you'll definitely have to visit his underground hacking forums. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, he's going to want to boast about his exploits to his friends, isn't he? And if he's got a criminal record, chances are it's going to be, well, for Britain anyway, it's going to be the Computer Misuse Act that he's been done under. Well, if that's what you are thinking, I hate to break the reality to you, but Dino is a very late bloomer into computing. The only reason he got into computing is because he heard he could make a fast buck out of it. He thinks that all us hackers are geeks, and he doesn't mean it in the sense that we use the word geek. He really uses that as a low-down term. Does have a criminal record, our Dino. Definitely. But he's been done for ABH and GBH, which for those of you who don't know, that's pretty much beating people up. Bit of burglary, or as we call it up in Scotland, because we've got to call everything a different name, we call it housebreaking. And he's been done for credit card fraud. Now, you might want to bear that in mind. That's important. So moving on to the story itself, because I'm a hacker, I'm not going to tell you the story from the beginning. We're actually going to look at the end of the story. The first thing that I have to say to you, though, is even though this is based in truth, I've had to use fictional names, obviously, to protect the ignorant bastards that got hacked by this. But hey-ho. So, a wee statement for you that I'll read verbatim. This is the press statement. On April the 1st of this year, insurance broker Be Safe or Be Sorry, they don't exist, by the way, and if they do, sorry, was the victim of an extremely sophisticated attack, the work of one or more malicious elite hackers who bypassed a considerable and compliant defence network. Now, we already know the first bit of that's bullshit, because Dino is not one or more malicious or elite hackers. Compliant, again, remember that word. What happened was there was about 6,000 sets of credit card details that were reported as going missing. A breach like that, well, it's going to affect the company itself, naturally losing 6,000 sets of credit cards, which is its whole database of customers. Yeah, you can't come out of that well. It's going to piss the customers off as well. I know if my card got used by someone that had stolen it or cloned it, I'd be quite annoyed. Even if I have to cancel my card, that's still an inconvenience to me. Obviously, the company's reputation is going to take a hit as well, especially for a financial type of company. Would you really want to provide them with details in the future if they've lost these? So a lot of things can happen. Some of you that have been astute with the news and whatnot of things have probably heard something like that before. Because back in March of last year, RSA, the Secure ID guys, they announced they'd been victims of an extremely sophisticated cyber attack. I mean, huh? Now, not sure if you'll see this on there, but see what's coming out the bull's bum? That is absolute bullshit. Because what they were actually the victim of was a phishing email. A phishing email that was caught by the spam filters. And people hacked it out of the junk box. Oh, that must be important. I want to read that. Yes, they did read that. Well, for the hackers among you, that's a social engineering attack. That's ours. You ain't claiming that. Yeah? Ain't terribly sophisticated though, and I would argue against it being cyber as well. It's a piece of piss. Now let's have a look at what the effect of that was. So between April and June, they did their clean-up of the March attack. EMC, company that owns that whole RSA outfit, it cost them $66 million. I just want to stress that again. $66 million to clean up the aftermath of a phishing email. Now, just had the Olympics in London. Take your $66 million, give or take a few quid. That would have paid for your opening ceremony and your closing ceremony as well. So EMC could have picked up the tab for that, and instead of us stupid bloody taxpayers. Cheers. Looking at Be Safe, Be Sorry though, it's estimated for them that it's going to cost them about £1,000 per man hour to secure the breach. So from figures from PricewaterhouseCoopers, they reckon it takes about 2 to 10 man days to clear up a breach, that it's like this for them. So that's going to cost them between 48 grand and £240,000. And that's without taking into account things like fines, even if you take your Data Protection Commissioner fines. None of them are within that either. So what that would be, well, that would be 631 full 3-day passes to the fantastic 44Con. Or, if you took all 24 employees of said insurance company, they could have came to all training days, they could have had their 3-day pass, and they would have had £86,880 to, well, basically piss up against a wall. Now, probably the kind of beer budget you need for 24 guys up in Scotland, in fairness, but that's what they would have got for their 240 grand. But we really need to get back to the beginning of the story. That's where the hack actually happened. How did it actually take place? Well, another title for the talk. I usually like to add sublines into my talks, and I had that for my last one, The Salesman's Guide to Social Engineering. What I've decided another good title for this talk would be is A Criminal's Guide to Social Engineering, because the talks that are out there at the moment are focusing very much on our methodology as pen testers, as pretend attackers, as opposed to, well, what would Dino actually do himself in this type of attack? So, some information gathering for the criminally minded. Bear in mind, imagine you're Dino. The first thing that you're looking at, you have not been handed a company to go and pen test. So the first information that you're gathering is actually going after a weak target. Now, you could look on the internet for a weak target. Sure. You could stick a pin in the phone book and see if that works. How about, though, one you will have heard about, password policies. If you pick up someone's password policy, you can use that to narrow down your favourite password breaking tool like Cain and Abel or John the Ripper and whatnot, and that'll help you get into a system. Now, I'm teaching you to suck eggs with that. What about, though, compliance documentation? Something that, I dare say if there's any auditors in the audience and whatnot, yeah, you're getting the boxes ticked and making sure that people are actually compliant with various standards. Well, let's have a little think about the past. We've got Dino, and remember that he likes credit card fraud. Therefore, the type of compliance he might be interested in is PCI DSS, which is your payment card industry data security standard. Basically bringing together, you got all your 5 card providers, they had their own security standard, and they mashed them into one particular one, just so it was across the board for them. Now, bear in mind, that is designed to protect the credit card company. It is not to protect the vendor, even though they might sell it to the vendors as that, and it is not to protect the customer. It is to protect the credit card company. And what it establishes, and this is another word, we're up to compliant, this is the new word to remember, minimum standards. Now, there are 4 levels of compliance. A few of you might be thinking at this point, like Picard there, the fuck is he talking about? This is a bloody hacking conference and he's telling me about compliance standards. Bear with me, it is important. So, your 4 levels. Big merchants, 6 million transactions a year that they're processing. That's level 1. Level 2, 1 to 6 million transactions. Still pretty big, but a little bit smaller. Key level here, level 3, is processing between 20,000 and 1 million e-commerce transactions. And that's the important bit. Because if you're Dino and the company has no internet presence at all, it's going to be pretty hard to fucking hack them at the end of the day. But level 4 is people that process less than 20,000 e-commerce transactions, or if they're offline, they process 1 million more. Now, the reason I've stepped down the levels for you is because the compliance requirements get lower with every step. So, I mean, what one do we think that Dino's interested in? Now, if anybody thinks he's interested in level 1, again, door's just up at the back, because Dino is interested in level 4, the least defended of them. Because to be level 4 compliant, and this amazed me when I researched this, you've got to fill out an annual self-assessment questionnaire. Now, I don't know about you, but I've filled out self-assessment things for the likes of the tax and stuff like that. Not that I would advocate people manipulating their tax return, but take from that what you will. But at the end of the day, it is self-assessment. You are ticking the boxes yourself Also, and this sounds great, I want one of these for my Christmas, is a quarterly scan by an approved scanning vendor. That sounds absolutely fantastic. What that really means in actual fact is a company pretty much running a NESA scan on your system, telling you the vulnerabilities it picks up and asking you to correct them. Now, as the hackers among us will know, a NESA scan does not pick up everything vulnerability-wise, but it ticks the boxes for the minimum standards. So be safe, be sorry. Medium-sized company, got about 6,000 customers. On their website, they say that each customer sort of buys about 2 policies a year. So just rounding it off nicely, it's about 12,000 transactions that are going through, which is less than the 20,000. Therefore, they tick the level 4 box. How, though, I've just described what be safe, be sorry are. We haven't got into how Dino himself finds this out. And this is where the science comes in. Firstly, though, I want to show you social engineering. You've obviously got a social bit of it. Now, if you take the exact meaning of social, yeah, over relating to society or its organisation. But think of its adjectives. Think public and think public information as being the social bit. The engineering bit, well, that's easy. That's just taking the application of the knowledge that he has and belting it through. And this is why we're looking at the science. But take social engineering to mean that as opposed to the way it's been mishmashed over the years. So the social bit, well, we know that Dino likes his public information. I've just said that. But how does he get hold of it? Well, he could use tools. I mean, for instance, you've got Maltego, which is, I love it. It's an absolutely fantastic tool. Great advantages to it. For any of you that haven't used Maltego or heard of it, what it does is you take a piece of information and it'll run a thing called a transform on it, which effectively transforms that piece of information into more information related to it. So it's very, very good for data mining, drilling down data and whatnot. Again, I think Maltego's fantastic. Transforms themselves, you've got a lot bundled with the package, but you can write them yourself. You can write them in Perl and add them into it. So if you want to say the likes of how Suggy did, do a lot of stuff with Twitter, then you can write various transforms to get into Twitter over and above what Maltego does. And it puts it in a nice pretty graph for you, like the picture that we looked at before. Bear in mind though, as I said to you at the beginning, I am not the guy that your CSO warned you about. Dino is. So how does he look at Maltego? Well, the first thing is it costs money, which some of you might say, okay, he's going to make a bit of money out of this scam, presumably. But yeah, I'm not talking about the actual cost. I'm talking about the fact that there's a transaction taking place. There's a trail to it. He's got to buy it from Petreva, and that could lead back to him. So that knocks out that for him. There is a stripped-down free version, but it's too stripped down for Dino's uses. I mean, it's great to see how Maltego works, but it only brings up 12 pieces of data, which isn't a lot of use for what he's doing. Also, it taps into Petreva's servers as well. So again, that's something he'd really rather not have happening on his computer. Now, what Dino thinks about Maltego, he thinks it's very pretty. Lots of little bubbles floating about. How we look at Dino? Do you think he's a pretty boy? Sorry, he'll not be offended. So, we know now Dino is focusing on a single target. Again, with the Maltego, that's good for getting a lot of targets, drilling down targets and whatnot. But Dino has a single-minded pursuit of one company to rip off. So he could use Google hacking, but for those of you that have used Google hacking in the past, you need search parameters for that. What about PCI DSS? Hold that thought. A bit more on Google hacking itself, though. If any of you don't know what Google is, again, I keep doing this, but I'm going to point to the door up at the back. First accredited to Johnny Long, who runs the Hackers for Charity thing. Very, very worthy cause. He came up with the Google hacking database. Uses things called Google Docs, which effectively is advanced operators to drill down your search criteria and find exactly what you're after. But again, Dino is not an advanced computer user, so how does he get access to that particular knowledge? Well, a small video on it there. See how this comes up on the big screen. Should be able to read it. But what he types into Google is, well, how do I Google hack? And funnily enough, brings up the Chuck Norris Google hacks, the top link on Google, by the way. But a little bit further down, he has the Google hacking database. Now, Dino goes into that. he has a quicker look than, or a slower look than I have here, but he finds in there that it's out of date now, it's not getting maintained. How will he find one that's more up to date? Well, how about sticking in Google hacking database and seeing what comes up? And lo and behold, the top link there, which he clicks on, is the exploit database, exploitdb.com. Now this one takes a wee while to come up because when I recorded this video, it was the same date as all the Java shit dropped. Therefore, I reckon exploitdb was probably getting hit pretty hard on that day. But when it finally does decide to come up, it's the Google hacking database, and it is more up to date. I mean, the last one there was in June that was on the list. So what he does to test it is, he puts in his favourite con in URL 44con. And what that tells him is everything has 44con in the URL. Easy as that. Not a lot of data, but he's managed to do his first Google hack. So, we know that Dino likes less defended targets. How about he pops into Google, very simple operator, and looks for PCI DSS level 4 compliant, people that have that on their website, declaring it loud and proud. Or, how about he looks up for PDF documents about PCI compliance. We'll see what he does with that. So again, he loads up his favourite search engine. Apologies for it being a Windows background, but hey-ho. Got to spread the love around. So he pops in PCI DSS level 4 compliant. It's amazing how slow you type when you're watching your own video. Now bear in mind, that is the lower level of the compliance. So what we'll have here, we've got about 2,040 results up there of companies that display loud and proud that they conform to PCI DSS and are level 4, so Dino's targets. They're putting that onto their website. The next thing that he looks for is the documents themselves. So he strips out the level 4, he just wants to have a poke about and see what kind of documentation's out there about PCI DSS compliance. So he pops in his in-text part, and then he looks for file type PDF. Now, first page Google comes up, not a lot, it's just telling you about being PCI DSS compliant. But like everybody, if you want to hide a dead body, you put it on page 2 of Google. And lo and behold, at the top there, PDF, list of PCI DSS compliant providers. Bang! Provided by Visa, his target list. Fantastic. So he's identified his target. Because Be Safe, Be Sorry don't exist, they didn't show up in the Google results. I wasn't going to make a dingy website just to hack. I've got to draw a line somewhere. But his Google hacking's only just started. I mean, he wants to gather some information about the company itself. So you can use commands like link to besafebesorry.com, and that'll give links into the target. So that'll tell him about business partners, people that rely on the company for business and whatnot. Another one, though, that you could use is in-text for the website, but in-text designed by, so that he can get a handle on the company that actually designed it and what they designed it with. So what I've used for this little video is actually, I had to be a real insurance company. So if any of you work for this company, tough. But I used a company up in Glasgow called Giles Insurance, because we're not searching for anything that isn't on Google there. We aren't doing anything that's out of the ordinary, but it's amazing what you can find. So the links page, well, that just tells us all the sorts of companies that rely on them. What it also gives us on the links page, as I'll show you here, is the setup of their email addresses. So if he's going to plan a phishing campaign, he now knows how their emails look. Next thing that he pops in, just wait for it to type in, as he's looking for the company that actually designed them to see if he can get that kind of information out. So all very, very easy operators, not something that you would have to dig the troves of the net or have a hacking degree or a qualification or anything. But he pops in designed by, and when that loads up, he's got 10 results, but one of the results in there, lo and behold, tells you the company that designed the website, well, in this case, of Giles Insurance, but we'll imagine for the company that he's attacking within this story. So some other information searches, I dare say a lot of you have known about Google hacking, that's fine. Think about this though. He's an insurance broker, so they are registered with the Financial Services Authority, the FSA. What the FSA register will tell them, now again, this sounds like someone you'd want for Christmas. It's an individual responsible for insurance mediation. What does that mean in plain English? That's your insurance salesman within the company. It'll also say whether the company's directly registered with the Financial Services Authority or whether they're part of a network. Now again, some of you might be thinking, why the hell does that matter? Well, I used to be in finance before, and I was part of a network. And I know that every single company that is within the network has to use the same software. So, by figuring out what network they belong to, you've just figured out the software and can look up a vulnerability database and actually find out the vulnerabilities that are in that particular piece of software as well. So looking at the video here, I go into the FSA register. Again, I'll use Giles Insurance, just for the sake of continuity. Now, Dino knows from what came up on the Google link that they are a Glasgow-based company, as I said to you earlier on. So what he does is he loads up the FSA register, goes into their search engine, quick click on that, and pop in Giles Insurance. Wait for my painfully slow typing. Didn't seem that slow when I was recording it.
You've since gone to them and got them cleaned up.
Yeah, I have contacted them. Now, having a look at Giles Insurance, again we see the format of email addresses. I've also got, if you want to fax them, a very, very slow social engineer, by all means. Appointed representatives. This, effectively, without boring you about finance, is companies that are dependent on Giles Insurance, so they are actually quite a big company. There could be some hooks in there for you. The one I like, though, the individual search. We have not one, not two, not three, but 4 pages of people who are insurance salesmen or saleswomen within the firm. And we know how their email addresses are laid out. So we've just got their email list off of the FSA. Now, pop in my old company, Jacobite Finance, to show you the mortgage network thing. No longer running, but if I go into principles, it shows you the network that I was a member of, a company called Lime. And if, bit of homework for you, if you have a look at Lime, you will actually see the software that my company and every other company with Lime use. And yeah, it does have 1 or 2 vulnerabilities. We'll not talk about that. That's for another talk. So looking at the attack itself, Dino's selected his company. He knows exactly who they're reporting to. He knows exactly what software they use. And he knows what vulnerabilities are in the packages. I haven't done a video on exploit database because, yeah, if you can't search an exploit database, dearie me. Be safe, be sorry are what they call an appointed representative. So they are part of a network. They're using a web-based version of the sourcing software. And the site that they use, like a lot of companies like this, like my own company was, is built using a site constructor that the mortgage network provides. They slot in their details and they get a white labelled site coming up. They have no tech guys whatsoever within the firm. I love guys that think they're tech guys, but yeah, they're not. Also just so happens that this particular piece of software is vulnerable to cross-site scripting. Now, some of you might be thinking, cross-site scripting, Gav, dearie me. You can only hack yourself for cross-site scripting. It's like, the joke's on you, folks. Dino thinks to himself, really well, I accept that challenge. Well, that'll look at the internals of the company, though, just to show how the attack has to take place. We've got Dino's malicious input here, and that leads into the customer side of the web app. Then goes into the internal sales side of the web app, goes to the nice happy salesperson here. We assume that the salesperson, he'd be pretty shit for doing his job without it, has got access to the customer database, which naturally, if Dino can get hold of that, that's going to make him some cash. So what options does he have? Well, option 1, he can social engineer some credentials, a la the books. He can walk in, he can pick up the phone, he can go through all the bullshit that you've heard in the past. Or, option 2, this is Dino. He can just hack them. Or option 3, he can go in with a machete and get the details that way. Again, that's another talk. So, having a look at XSS itself, how does he learn to do cross-site scripting? Well, again, he just pops into Google, how do I use XSS to hack? And funnily enough, the top link is the cross-site scripting cheat sheet, which tells you various ways of doing it, various ways of avoiding filters. Very, very long, as you can see by the thing at the side there. Pretty good. But if he wants a wee tutorial on how to do it, he can always have a look at the YouTube videos. that have been done as well. So he has a quick look at it, and the first thing that he sees is an alert for cross-site scripting. So he thinks to himself, right, I think that they're vulnerable to cross-site scripting. How do I prove it? So what he does is, and I designed this web app myself, I doubt any are going to employ me to make web apps after seeing this. But this is the customer app. So what Dino can do, as part of the insurance process, he can leave a message for the sales agent in there, so he can say, yeah, my house has got 6 bathrooms or whatever. But what he does is he drops in a wee bit of script and fires that over. Now, when he clicks on test your input, what happens is the message is displayed on, and we'll go through the message in a minute, but the message is displayed on the sales app side. Another way of him getting into it is to click on the start quote. So it says there's a pending quote for the sales agent, clicks on start quote, and it brings it up on the sales agent screen. Now, it brings it up in the way that he expects that app to look as well. So that element of trust's already there. That's the app he's using every day. What I'd also like to stress, here's the message. Call, now obviously he'd use a different name, but just for brevity, call Dean Logie on that number. It's not a real number, by the way, folks, so don't call him. But to discuss life insurance he wants to buy, it's going to be £210 per calendar month. Now, this is an insurance sales agent. First thing he's thinking to himself is, bloody hell, that is worth £1,260 to me, which is 6 months premium, pretty average for what you would get within the insurance market. Yay, a bit of social engineering in there. Dino gets a call from the sales agent. Sales guy wants to make, remember, £1,260. If there's anybody in the audience that thinks that's a low amount of money, you're getting my bar bill tonight. But Dino slows the whole thing down and says, no, I've lost the policy, some of my details are changed, I need you to run through it again. So what the sales guy does is, he runs a new quote, he takes Dino's details and inputs them into the database, naturally forged details again, and emails the documents to Dino. That's confirmed 2 things. Firstly, he's confirmed that cross-site scripting actually works, just by using an alert function. But secondly, he's just set a trap for the sales agent himself. So let's look at Dino's response. Now, what he comes back with, the first thing when it comes to phishing emails and whatnot is avoiding spam filters. The beauty for Dino, first thing with it is to avoid a spam filter, it usually picks up when you're trying to spoof the email address. So if you're sending it from one email and reporting it from another email, your spam filter will usually pick that up. Dino's not doing that. He's got a disposable email address that he's using, and the sales guy has emailed him with the details at first. So the trust relationship's already there. A bit like RSA, if Dino's mail goes into junk, which it probably won't, the sales guy's going to fish it out because he wants £1,260. Also, you'll have proper use of language in there. He doesn't want to sound like a moron. But again, the sales guy is expecting the email. It's got to have a call to action. I mean, if the sales guy doesn't do anything, it's going to be a pretty useless hack. Sense of urgency in there. £1,260, anyone? That'd make me have a sense of urgency. Bear in mind though, this sales guy's also got a sales target, so even if the money doesn't motivate him, the fact he's got that target to meet to keep his job will. And also he's got pressure for his sales team. His sales manager's going to get an override on that of about £300 as well. Therefore, he's going to be pushing him and saying, get that bloody policy written. And it's got to have a malicious payload, again, because it'd be a pretty shit hack. So what I've used is a very, very simple wee script just to steal the authentication cookie. Some Dino can pick up anywhere, funnily enough, on Google. So loading up my brilliant app again. This is the email that he sends. Just says, yeah, thank you for sending me the quote. Very happy, like to go ahead. It also has this document down here. Now let's just assume that the sales guy is thinking, oh, maybe could be a malicious document. He probably isn't. He doesn't even need to go into it because bang, the minute he mouses over it, the authentication cookie, well, I've printed it on screen, but that's been emailed to Dino. It is encrypted, however, it uses MD5 encryption, which Dino very, very quickly can just pop into his favourite decryption engine, and lo and behold, whenever it's popped into there, it will come back with whatever's behind that cookie, which in this case is steve@besafebesorry.com and I love money as his password. Game, set and match. Dino's now in. So we'll assume he wreaks havoc with the database and whatnot. after that and cut the story a bit short. So yeah, we are indeed all doomed. It is time to head for the hills, or for the pub, rather. But, firstly, what did Dino actually make out of this attack? This to give you a sense of perspective. Well, the price on the underground market at the moment, and I didn't get this because I went out and sold dodgy credit card details to the underground market, in case anyone's wondering, but you're getting about 20 to 30 pence a card. Now, Dino's a social engineer, and social engineers are all fantastic, so he gets the full 30 pence per card. 6,030p's, Dino's making himself 1,800 quid off of this. Again, 1,800 quid. Anybody remember what the cost of the cleanup was? Well, just in case you don't, between 48 and 240,000 pounds. That's 240 grand. They would have been better off if Dino walked in and walked out with 1,800 quid worth of equipment, because this is the cost to them to clean this shit up. That is going to bankrupt BSafeB, sorry. It's going to kill them off just for Dino to make a week's money. Going back to PCI DSS, though, this has actually been looked at in the past. And a clever guy, Greg Reber, what he said was, well, you can be PCI DSS compliant, but you can still be insecure, particularly online application vulnerabilities, customer-facing apps. Now, this guy said this back in 2009, but these apps are still out there. Still growing, still dangerous. The reply from PCI DSS was, well, and it was Ellen Ritchie, again in 2009, that said, but yeah, no compromised entity has actually been found to be in compliance when they've been compromised. So that makes you think to yourself, well, does that mean that PCI DSS is a good thing? Does that mean that it's secure? Well, there's 12 requirements for compliance, which sounds quite low. In fact, one of them is you've got to have distinct usernames. That's quite easy. But there are 220 subcategories, all minefields for you to trip up. Therefore, it's very, very easy for the credit card company to brand you as being non-compliant. Therefore, our rules work, we rule, you're getting fined, ha ha ha. Big problem that we have. The attack that I did there, it isn't a bloody 0 day. None of you are going to run away and think, oh, this guy taught me a really sophisticated hack. Because it's dead easy to defend against. You can separate your credit card data from the other data that's held on the customers. You can encrypt it, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to bore you with that. What it hasn't been able to defend against, though, is the human element of the attack. Now, bear in mind, if the attack had to be more sophisticated, Dino just has to do more Google time. Let's get real about it. The sales guy's still going to contact a hot lead, and people are still going to go for these minimum standards, bottom line, and that is where we're failing. So some solutions for you. I'm looking at passive versus aggressive defense. Now, we should be doing both, but what we do at the moment is just passive defense. So step one of that is stopping the malicious content. That's your spam filtering and whatnot. Having strong spam filtering and reducing access to emails and internet. The problem is the sales guy is going to need access to emails to be able to transact with customers. So bang, the bottom one's gone. Spam filtering, well, the sales guy's been liaising with Dino anyway, so the chances are the spam filter's going to pick up that that address has been emailed in the first place and is a real email address as opposed to a spammer. And even if not, the sales guy's going to fish it out of the spam. Step two of that is a policy, good policies. Don't open email attachments. The key here is from unknown sources. Dino's not unknown. Dino has actually made himself known to this sales guy. So that's absolutely useless on its own. And not following web links in unsolicited mail. Again, the mail has been solicited. The sales guy emailed him in the first place. Therefore, this on its own is absolutely useless. If we look at aggressive defense, though, step one of that is training in attack scenarios. Now, up at Abertay Uni, we do a thing when we start the ethical hacking degree on phishing emails and malicious websites. And it starts off with ones that are painfully obvious, but then it moves up to ones that are really, really hard to identify. There was also a study done up at Abertay, though. London Olympics, again, very, very topical. They had a look at fake websites versus the real websites, and it actually turned out that the real websites had more grammatical and spelling errors on them than the phishing websites. So for all the web developers out there, for all the guys that are managing content, give them a kick up the arse and tell them to get it right. Otherwise, people are going to go, yes, the phishing email's the right one. Attack role plays. Now, being an ex-sales guy, everyone loves role plays. But in terms of attacks, it's a good way that people can just walk through, okay, this is how this attack would work. What would you do to defend against it? So they're actually being told about the attack and being walked through it, a bit of interactivity. That leads on to step 2, which is testing. We need to be testing, not just the physical perimeter itself. I mean, pen testers will be doing sort of these red team tests and whatnot and going in and checking a bit of social engineering, again, the book type social engineering, but also some spear phishing tests in there as well. And ones like we've done for Dino, ones that are very targeted, that are already luring the person in through another scenario. Because a good way of getting people to respond to it, it's like in my last talk I mentioned the mystery shopper scheme, which is to improve customer service. Because whenever you think there's a mystery shopper in front of you, you'll up your game for the service. Similarly, if you're constantly getting tested, if spear phishing emails are constantly coming in from us, the good guys, then you're going to learn to look out for them. Bit of food for thought for you. We're doing everything absolutely wrong. Security just now is very much not a nice wee dug, but a big stick. That's what we're beating people with. People that fail a security test are getting derided, they're maybe losing their job, they may be getting disciplined. No, what we need is some carrots for them. We need to give a reward for passing a security test. Now, being an ex-sales guy, rewards for me are always pounds, shilling and pence. They're always financial. But it was suggested to me by someone in the public sector, well, how would you deal with that? Yeah, piece of piss. Put a note on their personnel file. It's one way of doing it. So if they're going for a promotion, yes, you're going into a job that requires you to be sort of more security conscious and you've passed your last 6 security tests. That's a good thing. That's going to help you. Use your imagination. I mean, you could give people half a day off, yada, yada, yada. There are other ways of rewarding folk, but you're turning the security thing into something that they're actually excited about. Bit more food for thought on the psychology of it. Now, psychology, haven't really mentioned it throughout the talk at all. I haven't looked into the minutiae of psychology or anything like that. It is a very, very interesting field, and there's a lot of clever people that are studying these things within it, and I wouldn't take anything away from them. Thing is, though, particle physics is also very interesting, and for some of you, stamp collecting might be interesting as well. The main line is, we need to do what the ethical hackers will do. We need to study how the bad guy is doing his method of attack and use that to turn it against them, not look at the latest piece of research and say, oh yes, well that would help defend against this tiny little aspect. So coming to the end now, just to recap, social engineering, yeah, it's the greatest out there. If you don't believe that, then nothing I can do. Social engineering, it's not a mystic art though. I mean, I either get 2 things when I mention I'm a social engineer. People either give me the whole technical thing saying, oh yes, you know what I mean? You can't be technical if you're a social engineer. Have you ever used a computer? Or they'll think you're a Jedi Knight. They'll think it's something like the Jedi mind trick, waving your hand in front of people and they'll just bend to your will. It is neither. Anyone can do it. Small businesses, as I mentioned earlier on, are as much a threat as large businesses. In fact, probably even more so now as more criminals think, yeah, I can make a quick bit of money, but you're also wiping out a business with that. Have a look at your public profile, not just your company, but have a look at your own. Stick into Google, define, and your name. It's actually quite amazing what Google will pull out on you. I know I had a few surprises when I put that into Google about what other people had been writing about me. Well worth doing, a wee bit of homework for yourselves. Tools aren't necessary for the job. You could argue, if you want to be pedantic, that Google's a tool. But other than Google, Dino used nothing. He just searched for what he could do and cut and paste. Reward to the criminal is definitely in this field outweighed by the damage that can be done to your company. So it's even more important that you're investing the time and money in protecting against things like this happening. Because Dino's happy to make 1,800 quid. He doesn't give 2 shits about your company going bust as a result of that. And lastly, yeah, let's leave psychology to psychologists and concentrate on doing good old dirty hacks, yeah? Lastly, for you guys, you've all been awesome. Would that be a question mark? Yeah, cool. Might as well take I'll take a couple of questions, actually. We'll do a bit of both. Come and grab me, but if there's any questions just now, by all means. I'm feeling in a generous mood.
So do you think PCI DSS compliance actually has any correlation to an organization's security whatsoever? Because I'm not convinced.
I think, sorry, I missed half of that. My hearing's no great.
Okay. So do you think that PCI DSS compliance levels actually have any correlation with an organization's security?
Well, they would do, yeah. The top company is going to be far more secure than the bottom one. Hence why Dino will attack the smaller company out of it. So there's a direct correlation there between the two.
I think, yeah, instead of a question, more of a comment. I think when I look at the security, I look at three things. One is make sure vendors are designing their software properly. So the systems that are being designed, they are designed properly.
Yeah.
Second, it's being sold to somebody. So if I'm installing it, I'm doing it correctly. A state-of-the-art software implemented incorrectly can still have a shit results.
Exactly, yeah.
But at the same time, we are ignoring one part, which is all of this technology is used by human users. As you said,
Yeah.
it's anybody, even if the filter is going to put them into a junk folder, if they're going to stick it out, put it in the inbox and do something, so a good state-of-the-art technology still defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly, yeah.
I think the main thing is around the industry is around promoting the secure behavior. And when I go to a lot of companies and you just ask a very simple question, okay, how much percentage of your IT budget or your security budget you're actually investing in promoting that secure behavior? Fraction, not even 1%. So although we keep on investing in tools, we keep on investing in technology,
Yeah.
we are completely ignoring the human aspect to it. I think
Yeah.
the problem will not be solved until and unless the user part of it improves, they start showing secure behavior, and they become their own advocates in a
Yeah.
way, start promoting that behavior. And otherwise, it will keep on happening.
Yeah, we need to try more. I mean, I would say that's the key to it. Is you're absolutely right. We need to encourage secure behaviour, but the problem is there is too much being invested in the latest tool. Or let's get an IDS system and pay so many £1,000 for that, yada, yada, yada. But as long as you have got a user at the other end that, for whatever reason, can be very, very easily manipulated without having a degree in psychology, then yeah, you're absolutely right, that problem is always going to be there. But let's test them and try and just drill that down. Like, there was a company that was actually presenting at InfoSec, I think it was FishMe, and the guy had said that the companies that they did spear phishing tests on, they actually found that they drove down the amount of people that were falling for the tests, and it turned out that the people that were falling for it was actually the turnover within the company, so they hadn't been phished in the past. And that's why there was still a percentage of people falling for it. Now, every company is going to have turnover, but if you can drive it down so that your permanent staff that are there won't miss this, then yeah, best way of doing it. Well, I think we've got one more question at the back here.
Hi, thanks. Do you think the whole sort of social engineering risk will not actually be addressed until the actual user is affected by the attack? You know, I think you look at the majority of the general public, if their credit card or whatever they get hacked, they pass the risk on to the provider until Joe Public understands that it's their money that's going to, and it's their company that's going to lose that money. You know,
you're spot on. We need to get that understanding across to them. Like you say, after the effect isn't a lot of use. Because say, if we took BSafeBSorry, if it did cost them that full 240 grand, then that's too late for them. Yeah, the guys that worked for the company, it won't happen to them again. You're absolutely right. But yeah, you've just bankrupted a company. So we need to get it so that the users are learning about this before the effect, as opposed to being affected by it themselves and then going, oh yeah, my credit card got stung, therefore I'll be more secure in the future. Okay. Oh, you could just grab us after it, actually. Just grab us when because I know we're running a wee bit short of time. And like I say, but anyway, yeah, that's me done.